Inflation, it is already hurting your wallet, and you probably shelled out more than you wanted to for your Thanksgiving meal already.
But come Christmas, your grocery bill might be even higher. It all depends on what's happening on the railroad. Ed O'Keefe explains.
The White House is closely tracking this issue since it was administration officials that helped broker the deal that was reached in September. Administration officials saying any shutdown would be unacceptable. 12 rail unions are being asked to approve the deal, but 4 so far have rejected it. Workers would get a raise under the proposal, but the amount of sick leave continues to be a major sticking point. If they can't all come to an agreement by December 5th, the first of the unions would walk off the job, and the others would likely follow. And that would cause a major ripple effect across the economy just a few weeks before Christmas. One industry group estimates a shutdown would cost about $2 billion a day, causing significant supply chain issues and delays of food and fuel that could send prices soaring. Now, Congress could step in to stop a rail strike and likely would do so. They've done so about 18 times in American history. Here at the White House, they say the president is being briefed on the situation as things change. As of now, administration officials have no plans to step in to help broker a new deal.
The Sheet Metal, Air, Rail, and Transportation Union, or SMART, is the most recent union to reject the agreement. The union's constitution says each one of these crafts represented must pass an agreement for it to be ratified. And yardmen members oppose the agreement, meaning the union could not ratify it. In a statement, SMART's Transportation Division president said in part, "While the final outcome is somewhat disheartening, I am proud to say that SMART TD members turned out in record numbers and your voices have been heard." The cooling off period goes through December 8th. Now, during that time, the union can negotiate a new deal with the National Carriers Conference Committee. But SMART says they don't believe the NCCC will engage in further bargaining. If nothing changes by Friday, December 9th at 12:01 a.m., union members can begin to strike. So what exactly was in that deal that members voted down? Workers would get an immediate 14% raise, with a 24% raise over the course of the next 5 years. The tentative agreement would also give workers a $5,000 bonus and keep their health care bonuses and deductibles the same. It only gives workers 1 extra day off, but they are allowed to use that time for medical reasons. Union members rejecting the agreement argue it doesn't do enough to resolve their quality of life concerns. We heard from a member of the Sheet Metal, Air, and Transportation Union in September when the first threat of a strike was looming.
The railroads need to understand we're not robots. You know, we have lives. You got people that have missed their kids being born because of the pandemic, because they've been out there hauling the United States freight. You've got guys, even myself, have went through divorces in the past 2 years due to the industry, how it operates and the stress of it.
The biggest issue in this negotiations is over working conditions, that there's a problem with the attendance policy put in place where at some of these companies, the conductors and the engineers that actually drive or run these trains are on call 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 52 weeks a year, every year. So I don't know anyone who wants to be on call 24/7 years on end, and they work an enormous amount of overtime.
Well, the railroads estimate a rail strike would cost the economy $2 billion a day. If one were to drag on, it could impact jobs, hazardous chemical supplies, and much more.
Nobody wants the strike to interfere with an already fragile economy, and a strike could spike the inflation rate. So that once you get that shortage of goods, a strike in this sector could raise grain prices, could raise fertilizer prices, could any of the materials that are shipped by rail could go up.
Well, with that in mind, North Carolina is a national leader in poultry and swine production, but it is a grain deficient state. The State Department of Agriculture says a lot of the feed livestock farmers use comes from the Midwest by rail. They say any rail strike would be a disruption impacting agriculture in our state.
Agriculture, as much as any other industry, is relying on transportation networks. And so a potential rail strike causes us concern for market disruption, export disruption, those kind of things. Consumers have unfortunately seen these kind of situations develop over the last 2 or 2.5 years, starting with the pandemic, with increased prices in the grocery store. And so, everybody has to deal with that in different ways.
Dr. Sandy Stewart says any possible disruption should work itself out. The best thing you can do, be patient.
If a strike happens, Congress could impose a new contract or introduce legislation to block a rail shutdown if necessary. Congress last voted to end a railroad strike 30 years ago.